his service. So when he cooks or do that, clean, I go, oh, honey, thank you for washing the dish.
So many times you think that the touch can only happen during the sexual act and the union between that husband and wife. But the touch could be in the small thing, many boxes. But you never know what's inside until you do what? Open it. All right, and then hold up this, and you'll see that there are other boxes are inside. And men, we need to be romantic. Keep it real.
Welcome to another episode of Keep It Real TV, episode 61. We are so excited to be here today. We are your co-host. Dr. K and his wife, Lady Joy, are actually in Florida today. They are taking care of Dr. K's mom. Absolutely incredible lady. She is resilient. She just had major surgery, and she is actually in recovery, just left the hospital and in rehab. So we just want to say a special prayer and give thanks for God's greatness for that. And we are excited to have this awesome show today. We have a fabulous guest with us today, Miss Shana Jones. Shana Jones is an investor, a realtor, and so much more. But I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself. First, we want to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors today is Who Keeps Us Going. And Miss LaShawn Pursley Huey, as you can see on the screen, her business is Sneakers to Heels Mentor Program. So we definitely want to thank Miss LaShawn Pursley Huey for sponsoring this month's episode of Keep It Real. So without further ado, Angelique, my co-host, partner in crime, we are going to get started with none other than Miss Shana Jones.
I definitely want to invite Shana to share a little bit about herself. And today's show is focused on the scripture that is Philippians. And I'll have our team put up the Philippians scripture so that we can really focus on what it is that God provides. The topic is the state of real estate. And Philippians 4:19 says, "But my God shall supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus." And when we think about houses and land, we definitely think about what God provides for each and every one of us. So we're truly blessed when we have the opportunity to own a home. And our opportunity to talk with you today really is focused on what it takes for home ownership and investment. ROI Properties exists to reinvest in homes and communities, and today's show is just about that. Shana joins us from all the way from the Big D, Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit.
She's now a Texan and has been involved in real estate, but has a long-term career in finance. And that's really unique for women and women investors. Shana is a realtor and investor and a part of Bartholomew Real Estate. So we're really excited to have her join us today. Shana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about your background and how
Sure.
you came into real estate.
Sure. So Shana Jones, born and raised in the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan. My career started, like Brian mentioned, I came from corporate America. So I attended Tennessee State University. I obtained a bachelor's in business administration, focused in economics and finance. Most of my career has been internal audit, internal controls, finance, accounting, in oil and gas industries, testing and certification, a lot of different industries. I've been here in Houston since 2005, so a lot of oil and gas experience being here, obviously in the energy capital of the world.
Awesome.
So I decided to finally leave corporate America last year in 2023. We're in 2024 already. I actually will hit my 1-year anniversary of being an entrepreneur on April 21st.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, but I came into real estate. I actually became an investor in 2020 with some high school friends in Detroit. So we built a partnership to buy and renovate and sell, kind of just like the BRRRR method, right? Buy, renovate, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. So we started a partnership back in 2020. Unfortunately, that did not pan out, and so we're in the process of dissolving that. But I just have such a passion for flipping and for owning real estate and for that type of thing that I decided to do it on my own. So in 2022, I created my own real estate investment company, Ladybird Group. And then I became a realtor in 2023, passed my exam here in Texas.
Awesome.
In May of 2023, and then I became a licensed realtor in Michigan in December of 2023. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. That is a long career in definitely the areas that women traditionally are not involved in. And your relationship with Bartholomew Real Estate, you and Brian are in the game together, really working towards building a real estate empire. I want to just digress to the current environment in real estate. A lot of people probably are aware of the changes that's happened in the industry over the last several years. Brian, share with our audience your tenured background and some of the certifications that you have, and then talk to us about what's happening currently in the real estate industry and how it's affecting you guys.
Well, first of all, my background is over 24 years in real estate. I've been in medical sales and radio sales, but real estate's always been my passion. Why? Because it's something that it's one of the largest purchases that a person can actually go through in their life, and they often need help. They don't understand the mechanics and how it works. And personally, I've always enjoyed real estate, enjoyed seeing homes and helping people. So putting those two or marrying those two together made it real easy to get in the real estate business. Over the years, it's changed a lot, and automation, digital age versus the old school way of doing things. I won't date myself too much, but 24 years is quite a while. We did things a little differently. But essentially, it's the same. People want help. People want to do business with someone that they trust, that they can develop a relationship with, and they feel that it's in their corner. Understand what they're looking for. So our motto is to make it fast and hassle-free. Right? And that's one of the things that we try to do. We dispel the myths, we dispel the issues, address their questions and concerns, educate, and then step them through the process so it's a smooth transition.
With that said, I know that there's some exchange about representation and the process for realtors on both ends. Most of us are familiar with getting to the closing table and just having the realtor represent the buyer or the seller at that time. What are the changes that will impact you, Shana, and you, Brian, for going forward in terms of representation on the buyer or seller side?
Sure. So many people have probably heard about the lawsuit that the National Association of Realtors, also known as NAR, has gone through, where there were just lawsuits where sellers traditionally paid the closing costs, or paid the commission. Sorry, paid the commissions at the closing, right? And so there's a lot of moving parts around that. If the commission was ever negotiable, and it's always been set at 6%, and who should be paying it, and so that's a lot around the lawsuit. We won't get into all the details because there's a lot of details around it, but just making sure again that both sides of the transaction are fully represented. For the seller, you have you're listing your home, you're selling your home, so of course you need a realtor to help you with the paperwork. On the buyer side, people are saying, okay, well, if the seller's paying the commission, does the buyer need representation? Absolutely, yes. The buyer and the seller need representation. There's just so many details and nuances that go into a real estate transaction. No two real estate transactions are the same, and so just having a team and having people who have been in the industry for a long time and know the details and know kind of the ins and outs of the many different types of real estate transactions is very important. So being a buyer, it's not just walking in, seeing a house, oh, I'm in love with the house, let me put in an offer and we get to the closing table. There's so many things that happen with that. There's negotiations. I actually just had a client close a couple weeks ago on a home, and we saw a house that she loved. We put an offer in on it and did an inspection, and the inspection came back less than stellar. And then we wanted to go back to do negotiations with the seller, and she was not willing to come off of the price. So having an agent on her side, she knew what her options were as far as did take an option period so that she was able to get the inspection, and then she didn't lose out on her earnest money deposit. So again, having a realtor and just knowing that knows the details and has the information, has the knowledge, I definitely highly recommend that both sides of the transaction hire a realtor.
Awesome. Brian, elaborate on some of the pitfalls of not having that representation, and then discuss what's important for you guys as a team in terms of what you bring to the table and the value that Bartholomew real estate agents really have when they're representing.
Great question. On the seller side, not having an agent, a lot of people you hear for sale by owner. And they try to do that because they want to avoid actually paying that commission, whether it's whatever percentage. But what ends up happening is they don't really realize all the things, as Shana mentioned, that a realtor has to do. What about safety for your family? When somebody just pulls up and says, I'd like to take a look at your home. I see it's for sale. Have you vetted them? Do you know if they're qualified? Do you know if they're a criminal? You don't know anything about that person, right? Do you want to let them in your home? Well, there are things that a realtor does ahead of time to dispel some of that or put that risk level a lot lower, okay? We're going to drive around with pre-approved buyers looking for a certain price range, right? So therefore that person seeing your home or walking through your home is qualified to buy your home, right? We have other security precautions there that if something is broken or stolen, we can track who's been in the home. So that's a quick example on the seller side, and it's definitely worth the compensation. In fact, most for sale by owners end up being sold through the MLS, through a realtor. It's about 87%, somewhere around there. So after people try that, they say, this is a lot more than I thought it was. Maybe I do need to hire a realtor, right? On the buyer side, there's so many things. In Texas, the agent works for the seller by default, which means their fiduciary responsibility is to have that seller earn as much as possible. So if you're a buyer without representation and you see that amazing, beautiful house that is your dream home, how do you know if it's priced right? How do you know if it's overpriced? How do you know, as Shana alluded to and mentioned, hey, we did an inspection. Your client loved the house, right? She was emotionally attached. She was ready to go. She could afford it. But we had to say, wait a minute, this is not right. And based on these circumstances, we need to adjust the price or find something else. So we keep you grounded, we keep you focused, we step you through the process, through negotiations. We can help determine whether the value is right, if it's high or low. So we keep you on pace and keep you moving forward to save money and save your investment rather than losing it by making a mistake.
Awesome that you led into investment. Shana, you mentioned that you started early in investment property. So many of us want to jump out there. So many people want to jump out there and find an investment property. Everybody is looking for the option of that second home, even abroad. Brian, I know that you're working on things even abroad outside of the U.S., but from an investor standpoint, what are the top 3 things that an investor in a property should look for or look out for?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. And I don't know that I can limit it to 3. But every investor is going to be different. Every investor is going to be looking for different things, whether you're looking for, say, multifamily, or you're someone who wants to buy and hold, or you have an investor who all they want to do is flip. There's just so many nuances. There's so many different ways to be an investor. But the things I would say to look at that most investors are going to look at, they're going to be looking for cap rates. You're going to be looking in an area to make sure that when you purchase that home, one saying that you'll hear is you make the money on the buy, not the sell. So when you buy that property, you're hoping to already have some equity built into the home. So that's one of the big things that investors will be looking at is cap rates. We're not going to get
flow.
Cash flow and cap rates, exactly. And so, just making sure that the property that you're buying, because I've run into people who think they're investors, but they're actually property owners, which there's a huge difference between it being a property owner and a property investor. As an investor, again, you're looking for cash flow. You don't want to buy a property that, even if it's, say you find a property, and you won't find this in Texas, but being from Detroit, in Michigan, you could find a property for, say, $5,000-$10,000. Well, if you've got to put $100,000.
When you find that next one, let me know about that. I will be traveling to
Let our
Michigan.
people know. Did you hear that? Call Shana Jones.
I'm
Awesome.
licensed in Michigan too.
Yes.
But yeah, so if you got, say you come across a house and you can get it for $10,000, but
Yes.
you have to put $100,000 in it, and it's only going to be
Right.
worth $70,000. That's not a good investment. So you want to make sure that you're looking at all the numbers and doing your calculations into what is it going to cost. Having a great team is so important. I learned that very the hard way, but it's the lesson learned. It's you're part of being a tuition as an investor is just making sure that you have the right crew. So that's the next big thing is just making sure that you have your contractors that are reputable, contractors that are trustworthy, and that can actually do the work that they say they can do.
Awesome.
In a timely fashion.
Brian, I know that you've looked at opportunities through your international certification for a second home abroad, which we
Yes.
hope to have one day really soon,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, what is the key to looking abroad or considering that second home that everybody's considering or looking at now? Where are the investment properties, so to speak, in that area? And how does one decide that they're able to do that? I think you're focused on a certain community or retirement community or whomever.
Well, great question. In addition to what Shana already said, those baseline criteria, you're also looking at demographics. You're looking at, the cost of living. You're looking at stability of the country in terms of government, because that can make a radical change. If a war breaks out or something, you don't want to own property there that could be either destroyed or the value goes down, things of that nature. And globally, there are certain economies that are doing better than others. There are some that are friendly to investors and some that are not. So areas like Panama, Mexico, Portugal, Costa Rica, Central America right now is really a strong or a hotbed. Because it's going through that economic transition. People are familiar with it, the climate, the environment, the cost of living. A lot of people are retiring from other countries, particularly the United States. Expats are retiring, and you could actually live in these countries very nice, equivalent to the States on a third of the income.
But I know that it takes a bit more than just deciding or having
Yes.
the income
Yes.
to purchase that second home. There's maintenance and various other things that you have to look out for. So if our audience is really looking at opportunities to invest, how would they get that process really started? Would they just contact a realtor and share their interests? How would that work?
Well, for Panama, first of all, I would say give me a call because one of the certifications that I have is a Certified International Property Specialist. That basically means that I've studied many countries on a global level to say culturally what things are good, what are expected, are people moving in or are people moving out? To give you an idea of the climate of the country, the character, what are the people like, the culture, etc. That's very important. If you don't know the people in a particular country and you're a foreigner, that could be a recipe for disaster, right? And it's difficult to establish a company or maybe purchase property as a foreigner. You may have to put down significantly more money. So one of the things for in our case, in Panama, we set up VIP professional services. And the whole process for that is to streamline the process of investing, right? So going through our company, you are able to now put 10% down, maybe, right? Just depending on the structure, as opposed to 30 to 50% down to obtain a property.
Awesome.
So there are ways to streamline, but you want to have trusted relationships through the process.
Shana, if someone were to express interest, another female, like you said, you have your license in Michigan, and my brother is there, and I want to find property. What would be the process, or how would you go about making recommendations for communities or neighborhoods? I know that both you and Brian work throughout Texas and throughout Houston and Fort Bend County and Katy and those areas, but what is the process for someone contacting you to find investment property in Michigan?
Sure, that's a great question. I think knowing where you're going to be is a big that's a big question to have. We have an investor here in Houston that wants to invest in Detroit. And one thing I said, Detroit and Houston are two different cities. They're two different communities. And so knowing what you're getting into is really important. And one thing that I learned, especially when you're investing in the inner city, not that it's a bad thing, but there are certain things that come with the environment. And so just taking care of and having security around your home is a big thing. And so for me, I say it's important that, and another my mentors says as well, if you want to invest in that place, you need to go to that place. Don't just say, I want to buy property. A lot of people, especially internationals.
You need to know that community.
A lot of internationals will come, and we've all heard about Detroit, right, for the last 10, 15 years, that you could buy a property for $1. Yeah, you could buy a property for $1, but you were going to be putting so much money into it.
We're going to
you may not want to be in that neighborhood.
But, with that comes, though, but there were a lot of people that were coming internationally that were buying properties in Detroit, sight unseen. And so a lot of times you'll have issues with squatters and things like that. And so you want to just make sure, I say, you don't want to invest somewhere. For me, I would say don't invest somewhere you haven't been. At least drive around the city, because one side of Detroit, just like Houston, could be a totally different, if you don't know the streets and the neighborhoods that you're in, that's
our audience is definitely international on Keep It Real, and we've known for a very long time that international nationalities are buying in the U.S. and the U.S. is now purchasing and buying, and it's vice versa. So it's become a state of the real estate international kind of situation. Brian, I want to definitely, before we come to a close, talk a little bit about commercial real estate and the opportunities that exist in commercial real estate and how the economy has impacted commercial real estate and opportunities and investment.
Awesome. I'd love to do that. I would just like to put up, if we can, on the screen Shana's information, because we've touched on many things there in our audience. I know there she is, right there. There's her lovely face. I want to make sure everybody knows and sees her information, and also her Instagram and all her other information. I want to make sure people have access to Shana Jones as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
But to answer your questions regarding commercial is booming. Right, I'm seeing a lot of activity around commercial. As you can see around our city, a lot of industrial, a lot of manufacturing, these huge buildings that are shells that are people are purchasing and putting manufacturing in. That says that the economy is doing well. At least I know in Houston the economy is doing very well. But I think that nationwide commercial is doing very well.
It's been kind of a transition, though. I know during COVID, since a lot of offices were shut down, so now people are kind of transitioning into co-working spaces where a lot of corporations, I know just former companies that I've worked with in the last 3 or 4 years, they're fully remote now. And so a lot of commercial office space, when we say commercial, I'll say office spaces specifically.
The occupancy is down. The occupancy was like in 80-something percent.
It hasn't necessarily bounced back as quickly.
A little bit, because corporations now are
realizing that
they're saying,
hey,
look, your employees need to come to work a few days a week, and trying to negotiate that, as well. So to your point, absolutely, I think that's what's happening.
I've noticed in commercial real estate that they're now utilizing and converting commercial real estate to housing.
Yes.
Affordable housing is a big topic.
Absolutely.
And consulting with many of the agencies and cities here in Texas, they're looking at ways to utilize commercial real estate for affordable housing, because that's a crisis currently. I think internationally globally, affordable housing is a really big issue. Express to our audience what's the value of really finding the right property at the right price, and why affordable housing has to exist for that average mom or that average family that's struggling.
Things, as we know, are getting more and more expensive, bottom line, right? But people have to have a place to live. So as things cost more and more and more and more over time, you know, the median price here is like over $400,000 for a brand new home. You know, which means that you have to earn almost $100,000 a year just to be able to qualify for that home. I mean, 10 years ago, it was like half of that, you know, so think of that appreciation, especially post-COVID.
Okay.
With the appreciation of the value of homes, many of our clients want to say, okay, well, I've got this extra money, this equity in my home, let me sell my home and go buy something else. And when they try to find something on the market, they say, well, maybe we should stay in our home now because they cannot get what they have right now for what they're paying. Right? So why would they do that?
Yeah.
Plus the interest rates have increased. So the importance of affordable housing, the government says, hey, we have to find places for people. And the bottom line is if they're subsidizing or going through various programs in order to offer that, that keeps them out of other you know, areas that they have to deal with and puts them in a home to create a community and a lifestyle.
And what we've seen is in a lot of cities, in a lot of major cities, where rent is now cheaper, it's cheaper to own than it is to rent. And because of that inflation and just things that we're seeing, but like you, just to answer the question around affordable housing, that is so important. Where you have, you know, in different areas, I know Detroit, or sorry, Houston itself has kind of revamped its housing, the pricing and things that they'll offer to people who afford. Because now at this point, if you're not making $600,000, you're almost. I mean, or $100,000. I'm not 100.
We are
figures,
definitely not in
100,000.
that range.
Then you're not in. You know, then you can't even afford to have somewhere to live, which is
And
$100,000.
apartments are expensive.
You know, it's like
rent is expensive
at
too.
what point is $100,000, you know, meager earnings? So affordable housing is so important, and so I'm big on that. And when it comes to the education and from an investor standpoint, you were talking about, you know, affordable housing and just ownership. I know that's big for people, especially when you want to buy, thinking about multifamilies, thinking about buying single family homes and converting them.
Awesome.
My properties in Michigan are on housing. I have housing
Vouchers and things like that.
You know, that
really helps out. I think community-wise, it really matters. We're getting ready to close our show out. I want to just say thank you guys for really giving us the insight on the state of real estate. I want to get you each to just say thank you to our audience. Shana, let them know how they can find you.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Shana Jones. I can be reached on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. My information is on the screen right now. My contact phone number is 346-714-5404, and I would love to speak with you.
Awesome. Brian, you want to close this out?
Yeah,
and
Bartholomew
provide your
Real
information?
Estate. We just love to help people throughout the Houston and Texas area and also internationally. You can reach me directly at 281-772-6608. Also on Instagram at Brian_Bartholomew_real_estate.
All right. On this count of three, we're just going to tell our audience to keep it real. 1, 2, 3.
Keep it real. Yeah.
That was good.